I need one more. Take this one, right? Down front, please. Down in front, gentlemen, please.
I think perhaps I better start off. I'm Brian Monahan. I'm Mrs. Exner's attorney. And the format that we intend to follow is she's going to read the statement, which I believe all of you have at this time. And then she will accept and respond to questions.
Recent articles by Scripps Howard Syndicate, Chicago Daily News, New York Times, and other papers have inferred that I was a go-between for the Mafia and/or the CIA with President John F. Kennedy in connection with the Castro assassination plots. Despite assurances to the contrary by Senator John Tower, portions of my closed session testimony before the Senate Select Committee to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities have been leaked and distorted so as to implicate me in these bizarre assassination conspiracies between the underworld and the government entities. These distortions have unnecessarily intruded into my right of privacy and seriously affected both my personal relationships and my health. I will not allow the committee to implicate me in these absurd plots, nor will I allow Evelyn Lincoln or Kenny O'Donnell to sully or distort my personal relationship with Jack Kennedy. Until now, I have refused numerous offers to publish the facts concerning my relationship with Jack Kennedy, Sam Giancana, and John Roselli. But the leaks by the committee and the distortions by Evelyn Lincoln and Kenny O'Donnell have forced me to reveal the truth so as to lay to rest the wild-eyed speculation which now exists.
Just lay it down.
The full facts have been transcribed, documented, and placed in secure storage. They will be released at the proper time and in the proper manner. However, I can, at this time, emphatically state that my relationship with Jack Kennedy was of a close personal nature and did not involve conspiratorial shenanigans of any kind. I originally met Jack Kennedy in early February 1960 in Las Vegas. We were introduced by a mutual friend. I was introduced to Sam Giancana by the same friend at a party in Miami Beach in late March 1960. I will not at this time reveal the identity of that friend, but will do so when the entire story is told. John Roselli and I were introduced by Sam Giancana sometime after March 1960. Jack Kennedy and I last talked in late 1962. My last conversation with Sam Giancana was approximately late 1964. Despite information to the contrary, I did not place telephone calls to the White House from Sam's Chicago home at any time. My relationship with Sam Giancana and my friendship with Johnny Roselli were of a personal nature and in no way related to or affected my relationship with Jack Kennedy, nor did I discuss either of them with the other. Both Evelyn Lincoln and Kenny O'Donnell were fully aware of the nature of my relationship with Jack Kennedy, and their statements to the effect that I was a campaign worker for Kennedy are entirely contrived. During the period in which I was involved with Jack Kennedy, the FBI carried out a top priority investigation of me which resulted in substantial harassment. The portions of the FBI file on me which were read during my session in the committee shocked me. Their investigations were prying, insidious, and sounded more like a scandal sheet than a government investigation. The information quoted was both incorrect and speculative. I fully intend to demand my rights as a citizen to see those FBI files and also the testimony given by me before the committee, which by their own rules I should have already been given the opportunity to inspect. I have not gone underground as alleged in the newspaper reports. I have changed my name but don't feel that is particularly unusual when one marries. Because of my lack of information of underworld activities, I do not feel I have anything to fear from the underworld. It was only when statements were made inferring that I had such knowledge that I became concerned for my safety.
Just a moment. I want to emphasize several things. One, some of the dates that she stated may differ slightly from her testimony before the Senate committee. The reason is that since the time she testified, she's had the chance to refresh her recollection. Secondly, she does not intend at this time to define the personal relationships that she had with any of the figures stated.
Isn't that the subject of what a lot of the speculation is over? Wouldn't it be proper at this time to clear up that speculation by defining what that relationship is?
She is at this time responding to the insinuations made in the articles that were printed about her.
Specifically, which insinuations did she respond to?
That I was involved in the assassination plots.
That you were not there. That had not been said, though, in any of the articles.
It had been implied.
Did Mr. Giancana ever ask you about what went on in your relationship with Jack Kennedy? Did he ever question you about your relationship with Jack Kennedy?
Never.
Did he know about it?
Yes, he knew about it.
Did you tell him?
No, I didn't tell him about it. He
How do
just
you know?
knew. I don't know.
Were you aware, Mrs. Exner, at the time you were friends with Sam Giancana and John Roselli, that they were members of the Mafia?
I didn't really know. No, I didn't know. I knew they were
Mrs. Exner, were you?
part of the
What
underworld.
did you really know?
I imagine I probably knew they were a part of the underworld, but it was something that was certainly never discussed.
Did this concern you?
No, it didn't, because I was not a part of it.
Is it true you're a close friend of Frank Fitzsimmons? That you visited frequently at La Costa?
I have never met him.
Never met Frank Fitzsimmons?
No,
What about Jimmy Hoffa?
never.
You visited La Costa?
I have been to La Costa through the years. I haven't been there in years.
Have you attended Teamster functions at La Costa?
No, I believe I was at La Costa having dinner with someone when there was some sort of Teamster function going on, and that must have been, say, 6, 7 years ago.
At the time of your relationship with the President, did he know that you were also friends with Mr. Giancana or Mr. Roselli?
Would you repeat that, please?
Was Jack Kennedy aware of your relationship with Sam Giancana or Mr. Roselli?
Not that I know of. I never discussed it with him.
Can you tell us how you met Mr. Kennedy in a little bit more detail? You should just say Las Vegas, 1960. Can you tell us more, please?
I intend to say more about that at the proper time.
I mean, is it a party or, you know, I mean, can you just, you know, was it a fundraiser or what?
No.
Mrs. Exner, or do you intend to speak more at what you consider to be a proper time? Is it a book or is it another statement of this sort?
I'm sorry, but the decision really hasn't been made as to the exact way.
These other facts that you say are going to come out, are you going to be financially enhanced when they come out, or are you going to give them out, or is it going to be a charge for your information?
I haven't the vaguest idea. It hasn't even been discussed.
Are you looking for an agent for a book, Mrs. Exner?
No, I'm not.
You're not
Mrs.
looking for
Exner?
an agent for a
No.
book?
I'm
Mrs.
not.
Exner, were you formerly married to a movie star by the name of William Campbell?
Yes, I was.
What will determine the proper time that you will divulge this other information that has been put in storage?
I really don't know. I really can't answer that.
Didn't you think, though, at the time that you had a relationship with John F. Kennedy and with these reputed mafia figures, that you were kind of treading on some pretty thin ice, so to speak? I mean, that problems like this might come up?
No, I'm afraid it never entered my
Have you
mind.
ever written
You
a
said
book,
you
Mrs.
never
Campbell?
called the White House from Sam Giancana's house. Did you ever call the White House from your own home in Los Angeles or any place else in the country
Oh, yes.
to talk to the president?
Yes.
The White House ever
Did
called
he
you
ever
when
call
you were
you?
at Sam Giancana's house?
Not at Sam Giancana's house.
They called you at Chicago?
I'm sorry, there were 3 questions there. I didn't
Did
hear
the White
any.
House ever place any calls to you, wherever you were?
Yes.
Where were you at those times? How many calls? Approximately?
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Did you ever go to...
can't even list them.
There were that many?
There were a great many.
Would it be 70? Is that a fair number?
70 calls have been listed, I understand, in the log, in one of their logs.
The end of the relationship between you and John Kennedy.
It was, pardon me?
I think that's one of the personal areas.
That is, again, one of the personal areas that will be gone
Did you
into.
ever go to Palm Beach, Florida to meet with President Kennedy when he was there?
That's another area that will be gone into at another time.
Can you tell us whether you ever traveled anywhere in the country to meet with him, and if so, who paid for those trips? Did the White House pay for those trips?
No, I paid for my own trips at all times.
Mrs. Exner, you must realize that by not in any way defining this personal relationship with Mr. Kennedy, that there will be increased speculation about that relationship. Does that concern you?
They explain it's very difficult to express that in this sort of forum.
It is very difficult to express sitting here in this way. I cannot sit here and tell the story.
Mrs. Exner, could we have your date and place of birth, please?
Born in New York City, but I do claim a woman's right not to tell my age.
Mrs. Exner, you accuse the FBI of an insidious investigation. Would you not feel that since you had this dual relationship, one with the president and one with Sam Giancana and Johnny Roselli, that maybe the FBI had some interest in such an investigation at least?
Not to the extent that it was carried.
What extent are you talking about?
That's something else that will be,
Mrs. Exner,
that would take a very long
has been
time.
accused of prying into certain public figures' sexual lives. Do you know if that's true for a fact? If any public figures have you been able to find out?
I don't know if that's true.
Mrs. Exner, what
Did
was
they
your
pry into your
application
sexual
during-
life?
Pardon me?
Did they pry into your sexual life?
I'm not completely aware of that yet.
You used the term you were involved with President Kennedy. Was President Kennedy your lover? That seems to be the implication. Can we deal with it on the table?
No comment.
There's no comment to that.
What was the tenor of that last conversation with John Kennedy? Was it an amicable conversation?
Yes.
How long did it last?
Whenever my last conversation with him was, there was never any problem.
Do you remember that conversation specifically?
No.
Do you remember whether
Where you
Mr.
were when
Hoover's
you
name
received
was
the
ever mentioned?
telephone call or when that conversation took place?
I don't know what call you're referring to.
Well, we're talking about the last conversation with Jack Kennedy that you had with him. It seems to me that somebody in a position, a relationship with the president, it would be very, very vivid in your mind.
Well, it isn't, because to me he was Jack Kennedy and he was not the president.
Well, if he was Jack Kennedy and he wasn't the president, if the relationship was close, and I would assume it was close. Was it close?
It was close, and it was many years ago. It was many years ago.
Do you remember the substance of the conversation?
No, I do not.
Mrs. Exner, did you have an occupation during these years?
I was always financially able to take care of myself
What was your source of income at that time?
from my family.
What do you do now, Mrs. Exner?
I'm a happily married housewife.
Did you ever know Jimmy Fradiano?
No, I don't recognize the name.
Sorry about that.
Have you ever written a book, Mrs. Campbell?
Never.
Mrs. Exner, excuse me.
Are you planning one?
I have no plans at this time.
Did you know any other members of the Kennedy family?
Yes.
Which members did you know?
I'd rather go into that at another time.
Did you know Jackie Kennedy?
No,
Did you ever meet her?
no,
How about the mother and father, Joseph Kennedy and Rose Kennedy?
no.
What about Papa?
You will dwindle it down, and I have no more comment
Did
about
Jack
it.
Kennedy speak of them when the conversations he had with you?
As anyone speaks of their family.
Is he the law for the
Mrs. Exner, was Frank
Kennedy?
Sinatra the friend who introduced you to President to Jack
I
Kennedy?
have no comment.
Was Peter Lawford the friend?
I have no comment.
What are the distortions you refer to in your statement made by Kenny O'Donnell and Evelyn Lincoln?
I believe Evelyn Lincoln has, you probably have all read the articles. I believe Evelyn Lincoln says I was a campaign worker, and that is spelled out. I believe Kenneth O'Donnell, I believe both of them have said that my calls, I never spoke to the president. I believe in one paper, one of them said that I never had been to the White House. Numerous things that they've said.
Was that incorrect, that you had not been to the White House?
They're all incorrect, all of those
Incorrect that
statements.
you had not been to the White House?
That's right.
How many times have you been to the
Yes,
White House?
many times.
What did you do when you went
I would have lunch with Jack Kennedy.
there? Alone?
I won't go into this
Did you
anymore.
ever meet Mrs. Kennedy?
No,
Did you know Robert Kennedy at all?
I have no comment to that.
Did anybody ever contact publishers on your behalf to sell a book, and were you ever turned down for such things?
No,
On the phone calls that you made to the White House, Mrs. Exner, did you get through to President Kennedy?
yes,
Easily?
Yes, if that was my purpose for calling, and that's, I can't go into it. It was to talk to Jack Kennedy, but sometimes just to leave a message for him.
Judith Campbell, I'd like to talk to Jack Kennedy.
I would always talk to Evelyn Lincoln first.
Who else would you talk to at the White House, Mrs. Campbell?
No one else.
Was there any other reason other than to talk to Jack Kennedy for which you would have called the White House?
None at all.
Can you estimate how many times you've been to the White House, and was it all during the Kennedy administration, I assume?
I think you'd have to look through the books.
I have to look through my records and count the
So
times.
more than 10, more than 20?
It would be.
Mrs. Exner, what was your maiden name? Before it was Campbell, before it was Exner?
I think you have enough just knowing who I am now.
Why would Evelyn Lincoln
Yes.
or Kenny O'Donnell want to sully the story of your personal relationship? I don't quite understand that. Why would they want to do that?
I think it's very obvious. I think that they are taking the lesser of two evils. They are protecting, probably they think they are protecting his reputation.
Let her answer the question.
Yeah.
Let her answer the question.
They're protecting what?
Would you continue, Mrs. Exner, first?
I believe they're probably trying to protect the president from any kind of scandal that might be thought about.
But isn't the type of speculation that just your story and the way that you're telling it right now bring on the type of scandal that they...
No comment.
I have no comment.
Are you worried about your death threats? There's been some talk from your lawyer that you're concerned about death threats and stuff like that and your safety. Is that correct?
I was concerned about my safety in that the papers were implying that I was a part of this. I am not a part of it, and once that is made very clear, I am not concerned
Part of
for my
what?
a part of the assassination involvement in the political.
I mean, you haven't had any actual personal threats against your life, have you?
No, I have not.
Did you hear of this assassination whilst you were having this relationship with Jack Kennedy and Sam Giancana?
Never.
Castro's name ever mentioned?
Never.
Do you ever live in Shelter Island, Marina? Any of the marinas in Shelter Island?
No.
When did you first come to San Diego County?
It's about, I didn't live down here. I came down to visit my sister
How long ago was that?
about 3.5, 4 years ago.
Where were you living during the time of your relationship with Jack Kennedy?
In several different places.
On the East Coast or here? Or?
Part of the time on the East Coast and part of the time in the Los Angeles area.
Were you married at that time?
Kennedy ever discuss political matters or matters of international affairs?
Never.
So all your discussions were of a personal nature, man, woman.
Yes.
Did you?
He does for a living now, and
Your husband?
This husband.
I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about my ex-husband.
Let me introduce you to Dan. Are you really living
If we ever get through with all of this,
Are you living in a
motorhome and moving around because of some fear?
we bought the motorhome. We had a townhouse, and we bought our motorhome to go on tour.
FBI used this investigation. Were they illegal techniques?
Yes, they were, and I will spell that out at another time.
Are you planning any lawsuits? Maybe.
Whatever means available.
And is it still a possibility that you might sue some governmental agencies?
That's under...
I was getting a great deal of harassment from them at the time. I didn't.
Talk to the president about that harassment?
No, I didn't.
You never told him about it?
No, I didn't.
He said that the last the log showed the White House speaking to you was shortly after a luncheon that the president had with J. Edgar Hoover. The inference being that they discussed you. Do you remember that was supposed to have been in March 1960, which the White House log showed to have been allowed?
Nothing.
Did you speak personally to the president after that?
With you when Hoover told him that you knew these two.
Yes, I understand. I understand that.
Is that your understanding of it?
It's my understanding that what I've read. I've read. I have already stated when my phone calls ceased with Jack Kennedy, and they are long after that day. It just, I've no commented now.
Did you discuss the breakup with Kennedy in person or on the phone? How did the relationship end?
That's another thing I'll just go into when I tell the story. Really.
You talked about lunches at the White House with Mr. Kennedy. Can you tell us about any other meetings with Mr. Kennedy in Southern California or anywhere else?
Not now.
The newspapers reported the committee's conclusion that you had no involvement. Why did that not satisfy you, that there would be sufficient vindication? for you of any involvement in the assassination?
I don't like the things that are being said. I favored Dave Powers claims never to have met me. I don't like the things.
You have met Dave Powers?
Yes.
We have
What would they-
information that you...
April of last year. Of this year, excuse me.
You said that,
75, April.
you said that Mr. Powers, Mrs. Lincoln would be trying.
Comment.
What, when were you divorced from Mr. Campbell?
A very long time ago. I don't remember the year, really,
Was it
the
prior to
exact year.
1965?
Yes, oh yes.
You say you never worked in a campaign with
To set this record straight.
You've got a chance now to set the record straight, and you haven't.
I'm afraid it's far too lengthy and far too involved to be even...
We have time.
No.
I think perhaps maybe I shouldn't comment regarding that.
There isn't anything my husband doesn't know.
Have you ever voted word from them to tell you who were involved? And is this when you're going to let us know that you've gotten some kind of comment about? You're going to open the rest of the story, even though it's lengthy?
That's a bit absurd.
Did you tell the Senate committee under oath in these words, I don't know anything about the FBI or the Mafia. All I know is I was sleeping with a carpet.
I did not. I did
Or
not.
anything resembling that statement?
No.
You say before...
You've already answered that.
I've already answered that.
But before
About 2 or 3 more questions.
until you went before the Senate committee, were any of these relationships or friendships disruptive of your personal life?
Before what?
Did your uncertainties about, did your uncertainties begin when you were called before the Senate committee? Until that happened, was this a closed chapter?
Yes, people have tried to open it up many times through the years, but it was a closed chapter for me.
Who was tried to open up many times through the years and still not?
I don't have names for you. I don't have my books in front of me.
About governmental bodies or individuals?
No, people who wanted to write about it, and I was never interested.
Forgive us, we're slightly confused about your answer on whether you told the Senate committee. The question was, did you tell the Senate committee, all I knew was I was sleeping with the president?
I answered that, no, I did not.
Did you
Did
tell
not
them
say that to the committee?
I did not say
Did you
that
tell
to the
them the
committee.
relationship, the nature of the relationship, beyond that it was a personal relationship?
No comment.
That's it. I want to emphasize the fact that she is not going to give any further statements, and she would very much appreciate her privacy.
Until when, Mr. Monahan?
That's to be decided, but we're not going to give any further statements to the press.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian, get another copy.
That's true.
Yeah.